Testing, testing. This is Stefano Virgili from VOX podcast, and together with me today from Nairobi, Kenya, we have Diane Ha. Hi, Diane. How are you? Who's with you?
Hi. Hi, doing good. Thanks. Thanks, Stefano. So we have Shez Tejani with us today, who is a friend and the founder of MLife, and you can check them out at www.mlifedeals.com. And so I guess the way I would describe what MLife does, they do a lot of things, but a lot of market research related activities and lead generation. And you can add more to that in a bit. So just to give a little bit of context, Africa is super challenging in terms of, and also not a very mature market in that there's not a lot of competition in general. And also, unfortunately, well, at least personal opinion, I feel not a lot of interest to understand the market. So what Shez is doing is extremely challenging and trying to push the quality, of I guess sales and consumer getting consumer data and consumption of that as well. And then also another thing I want to bring up is so Shez has been in Lion's Den, which is the African version of Shark Tank, and he started, well, his journey started from another company that he started, Bamba, which he'll tell us a bit more about, and then moving into still dealing with data and then moving into MLife. So Shez, why don't we start with you telling us your story behind MLife and moving from Bamba to MLife.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Dan. Thanks everybody for listening. So, Bamba, I started Bamba with a couple of the co-founders in 2008, and the premise of Bamba was generally collecting data on the ground on mobile, because a lot of the market in the African continent and East Africa is based out of the rural parts of the continent and the country. So, and everybody has a mobile phone, and so we were collecting data on different sorts of platforms such as the SMS, WhatsApp, and Facebook chatbots. And that was our unique way of getting to the consumers and the panelists very effectively, very fast, and cost effectively as well. And so that Bamba's whole premise was generating and collecting data from remote and tough parts of the country. This data was being used by a lot of manufacturers and data research companies, such that they would connect with our consumer panels that Bamba would have curated and discussed and talked to and profiled over many years and many interactions. And these consumers would have built a trust and a relationship with Bamba. And we would go back and have our partner who would like to talk to you. We'd get them to connect with our panelists in a very interactive way, in a very personal way, and a lot of depth on the data. So that's mainly what we did as Bamba. We built technology and consumer panels to really build trust and gather information on the ground.
So you're basically providing a platform for big clients, manufacturing. What was one example?
So we work with multiple different companies, but manufacturing, insurance, solar, anybody that's looking at building anything in the country. So, but really it's about ability to get consumer data from the ground. So, we did a lot of solar surveys on understanding what the consumers were doing with their solar usage and how many people did have access to solar. And we worked multiple times with the government and a lot of NGOs as well, supporting non-government organizations, collecting data on the ground, understanding what the youth are all about, what they're trying to do, what the new phase in education is, and how should the community and the county spend their money. So that's mostly what Bamba was doing. And then that allowed me to get into deep into technology and consumer-driven insights. And that's what mainly based the premise of MLife, which is today a consumer-driven, data-driven marketing platform. And our whole objective is to turn the sales inside out, such that everybody in the market is running to push products to a consumer and saying, you know, buy me, buy mine. Here is why, you know, you need to buy my product. And what you get with MLife is we're going to the consumer and we're asking, what do you need? How much do you need it for? And what is it that will satisfy your need at this point? And then we go around and find and source the best product and match it with the right customer, such that the product, the timing, and the budget is all matched. And the consumer is ready to buy versus, you know, you're trying to push a product that may not be relevant to him at all at that time.
Right.
You know, so it's coming from a basis of a customer giving us their information and telling us exactly what they're looking for.
I remember when I was at the university, there was one of our professors who was an anarchic. I'm talking about nearly 20 years ago, in 2002 exactly. And I remember him saying, anytime they ask you information about your spending habits, he was advocating us students to lie. Never share the truth, always say lie, because they're using your data. But actually I was questioning him and I asked him, but if I kept saying the opposite of what I really need, then they will keep pushing me products that I don't need. I rather them pushing me products that I need. It sounds like that's exactly what you're doing, right? You are defining a framework from the consumer, not from the advertiser. You reverse the pyramid the other way around. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yeah. As I said, we're turning sales inside out. We're turning, you know, and a big example of this is Facebook. We're turning Facebook inside out. You know, everybody is socially interactive on Facebook, but they really go nowadays to buy and sell products. You have groups of people, Kilimani moms and, you know, Nairobi expats buying and selling products. And the premise there is really going in and saying, I want a TV that is 24-inch and my budget is 12,000 shillings, you know. So the consumers are already interacting in this way. They just don't know. And markets are all going around putting billboards and driving you know, sales that are yeah, like it's not helping the consumer, because it's not, you know, you come out with a product and an insurance, but how do you know that the consumer wants it or doesn't want it? By launching it in the market? Sure, but you know, there's a way to understand what the consumer wants as well, and we believe that is today much more possible, because the consumer sitting on a mobile device takes them a minute to respond to you like they're responding to their brother or sister on WhatsApp and SMS and tell you what they want, right? So there's two incentives here. One for us to now go and make sure that the customer gets what they want, and the customer to, as you said, filter out everybody else and say, I do not want to hear about everybody else and do not send me random messages. I'm going to go to MLife and I'm going to buy kind of what I want because they have a pool of products, but when I tell them, they'll bring me what I kind of want. And it's also I'd like to add that it's part of also building a future pipeline where, you know, you might be not ready to buy it. You have a 24-inch TV, you might want to buy a 50-inch TV, but when do you really know you want to buy it? So you're probably thinking about it in 3 months. You talk to us today, we build a pipeline in 3 months, we're ready to give you what you want.
Very interesting. And I don't know if you read today, by the way, you probably see me looking upwards because I got two monitors. The one with the camera is down here, but then the big monitor is on top. So I'll see you up there. I'm looking at you. You probably have read the news today about Uber retrenching 3,500 employees globally. And I remember that for a good 2 to 3 years, Uber was supposed to be the biggest disruptor in all the industry, because they came up with a concept that was completely new. I would say they reinvented the wheel of personal commuting and transportation. But it seems like that you are doing the other way around. And I think this is actually more disruptive than what Uber has done, because Uber could afford to do that based on the fact that they had a lot of money to spend from investors. But in your case, sounds like your business could even run bootstrapped as using the tools that consumers are already using. My only question then will be, how do you monetize if you're using a platform that belongs to Facebook?
Well, yeah. So again, I've using Facebook's platform.
Actually, sorry, can I interject here? Can we actually can you answer a different question first and then head to this? And then can you walk us through like how you have this whole ecosystem, it sounds like, of clients, businesses, as well as members, as consumers, and how how they interact with each other, and then move on to talk about the business model.
Yeah, so right now we're the middleman of the interaction, and we're the ones that go around, and so we work with a couple brands like Jumia itself that have.
Let's use one example, maybe like Jumia or Solar Company.
Yeah, right. So and if a customer wants something, they're going to buy it through us directly through Jumia, but then of course Jumia has ways of us being able to track all those sales and everything that goes through their platform as a general agent. So we're basically an interactor between our consumers and the supplier of the products.
Oh, sorry, so pause 1 second. So you have a whole bunch of consumers or members that interact with you already, and then you're sort of pushing some sort of, hey, if you're looking for, I don't know, deodorant or whatnot, buy here through Jumia. And then so you're sort of pushing customers to Jumia from your membership.
Yes.
Is that what you're, okay.
Yes, and many other places and direct sales as well. So we're not, we're a technology enabler. We're a consumer database, enabler versus a stockholder or a delivery agent, right? So we connect the consumer with the product, but we may not be necessarily the product provider or the manufacturer per se. So that keeps the model lean, and that also allows us to have a lean business model, a scalable one, and something that's definitely bootstrappable. So we've been bootstrapping for a couple of years, but we've raised some money and we're not, and this is the reason why we're not raising a lot of money. We do make we basically make money through, or it's like become profitable because we have the consumer base constantly buying from us. So it's a marketing play, it's a commissions play. We keep making different margins on different products, insurances, solar, mobile phones, TVs, or consumer food items, oil, and anything and everything that we sell kind of has a revenue attachment to it. So that's where we're building and trying to own the consumer's interest, such that we can give them the right products, and then because they're buying through us and they're connecting to the right product. So it's also a big relationship play between us and the consumer, because the consumer could go to Jumia directly, but it's not easy for them to go and find the phone they're looking for, because Jumia's objective is to push them 200 other items as well. So for us to say they're looking for a techno phone, which is 12,000 shillings and no more, it's much convenient for us to say, hey, let's go and find that particular phones that are between 11,900 and 12,100, and that's it. You'll see 5 of those, and you probably won't see anything else for the matter of that time. So it's a real trust and relationship building where we're serving the consumer before the manufacturer.
Over here in Southeast Asia, we have the equivalent of Jumia for East Africa. It's called East Africa and West Africa as well. But here we have Lazada, which belongs, if I'm not wrong, to the Alibaba group. They have investment in it. And I can't wrap my head around the fact that they keep pushing me the same thing that I was searching before. Like, I bought a microphone for my music studio, and that's it. I don't need another microphone. But then for the next 2 weeks, they will be pushing me microphones because I was searching for microphone. And I found it so surprising that with all the money that they invest on that platform, they don't track that I've already purchased. They keep showing me the same thing that I was searching. So very, very interesting, and a good interjection, Diane, because I didn't realize how the business model works. So I understand that basically the transaction don't occur onto your platform. You have a contract, a commercial agreement with players that upon securing a deal with one of your users, then recognize your commission. Is that a fair interpretation of your business model?
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, back to you.
Yeah, go ahead. Do you
So I was just going to say that the addition to how we're going to play, how it becomes our model is over the next few years. Currently, we use existing platforms because, again, one thing we are all about is consumer behavior, and then trying to change that is going against our own model. So, Facebook, WhatsApp, SMS is somewhere where consumers are always interactive. So we want to be there, and we have interaction technologies already built to be able to do that and predict what they're wanting to buy and what they're planning to buy. But then over the future, we'll be building our own interactive model technology that is, again, to finish up on the Facebook thing was, you can come to a place where you can offer to buy products, but then be social as well. Ask your friends if they want to buy the same things, ask for reviews. So over time, we're looking at building our own tech that people can use, but I don't think we're going to move away from the whole billions of people platforms that are existing, and it just doesn't seem necessary.
MLife, I feel like I've been quite fascinated with MLife, and I think it's also quite difficult to explain because it's novel, in that it's using marketing as a way to solve people's problems rather than marketing from the supplier side to push products. So that I can understand how you have, what is it, 1 million members in Kenya?
Yeah, active 250,000. We have about 1 million people that have registered, but I'd say about 250,000 that are ongoingly active.
Okay, that's pretty high number, and to be active, frequently as well. Because so these people feel like MLife is giving me value. They know enough about me through the different channels of communications that you have, that they know that I'll need maybe a solar panel in 2 months' time, and maybe a water filter that I need right now, or that I have 3 kids, and consume lots of formula milk or whatnot, or different things like that, and therefore you can then work with the businesses that provide these products to get them to come in at the right time, and not be so it's making marketing not annoying and purposeful. I think that's why I've always been fascinated by MLife. So I guess maybe you've already answered this question, but if there are other areas, like if I were a business and want to work with you, what offerings do you have for me?
Right. So generally, what we do is, we kind of try and fill the gaps of the market. So one of the 2 or 3 of the bigger gaps that the market has is good social media skills on how to get social media. So we have our own social media team. Another place that we have a lot of traction is our own sales center, where consumers usually in this market also want one-on-one interactions. They sometimes have questions, and that's really the last bit where you're closing the sale. So they interact with you on all these technologies, but then maybe to build that trust factor, they need to speak to a person, and then that person also has to be salesy and whatnot. So we believe our staff is really well trained in making sure every lead or every ticket is kind of a lead and upsells, and they understand how to interact with the consumers in the right way. And then, of course, our technology. So, we're able to then now connect with the consumer based on the product. So if it's a product that is for the mass urban market, we probably won't use WhatsApp, right? We might go SMS. And so if you're working with us, those are the 2 or 3 main values that you'd get. And then overall, the way MLife builds trust with the consumers and how often they buy from us and how regularly they come back to ask us different things is our value proposition, to say that our consumer base is ready and much stronger and almost always ready to buy. Yeah.
The N in the name is marketing.
Yes, marketing life, or mobile life, money life.
Very fitting. And so I think it's so interesting that you started with market research. Let's gather data on consumers. And then you started moving towards, let's use this data to help the consumer, but still, like working with businesses. So it's almost like similar area that you're in, but turned upside down, pretty much. And okay, so that's as a business, I can come to you and be like, I want to understand my consumers better. I want to have more direct. I want to give them direct contact, with my brand through the call center, WhatsApp, SMS, etc. And then basically increasing my sales. Okay, that makes sense. And how about, so if I were some average Joe and I love good deals, how do I sign up and how do I interact with MLife?
Yeah, so basically you'd see an advert of MLife if we're trying to reach you as a consumer, or you're looking for a product. We're about to come up with a platform where you can now start inserting your own products. But what you can,
as an average Joe,
yes,
I can put, I'm making my own.
No, you can ask to buy something. So you can say, I'm looking for buying something. Can you find it for me?
I'm interested in the technophone that's under this budget.
So,
blah, blah, blah.
yeah, so right now you can do that on Facebook. You can do that on MLife Deals. You can do that on WhatsApp or on SMS by sending us a text or a WhatsApp or a Facebook message on our MLife Kenya, and different pages have different products. So we have MLife Solar, we have MLife Deals, we have MLife Insurance. So you can go and buy different products on those different pages by interacting with the chatbot. So the chatbot opens up and asks you different questions around what your budgets look like, what product are you looking for, and then it will give you some recommendations.
Okay, so I'm an average Joe and I sign up and I can almost like post and say what I'm interested in looking for, or would there be some things, advertisements being pushed to me as well? Would there be some questions on like what kind of lifestyle I have, what kind of income I have, that kind of thing?
Yes, exactly. So that's exactly what happens, right? So we do push the adverts, and when we push the advert, you might see the registration survey first, such that we're trying to understand who you are and then offer the product. But if you come to us and you start with, say, just put into one of our chatbots and say solar, we'll start talking to you and ask you other questions and maybe give you some solar offerings. But if you say solar, immediately something will ask you, great, thank you very much for asking about solar. What budget are you looking at? And are you looking at a home system, or are you looking at a smaller product? So those type of, so then you're immediately put into a tree of interaction, and that never stops, because then you're just in a loop of, do you really want to buy, and is this the right product for you? And if it isn't, and you didn't buy from us, can we contact you some other time?
Yeah, so you have the data already, and maybe that they were at some point interested in some sort of solar product. Maybe, I don't know, it just sort of gathers a profile almost.
Yeah, because it's always consumer driven. We never go out and source data. It's always, if you give the information, we take it. If you don't, we don't have it, right? So if you've given us the info and everything, in every interaction is consumer requested. So even before you sign out, we ask you if you want us to get in touch again. If you don't, we turn off your account. If you want to get in touch with us 3 months later, we will get in touch with you 3 months later. We won't bother you before that.
So privacy.
Yeah, so it's about the consumer. If you want a weekly message, you can have it. Yeah.
Did you have a question?
Yes, I do. I'm imagining it from a tech perspective. I guess you program your bot to check against the inventory that you have. And it's like basically what you do when you search the product yourself. First you type in your keywords, then you'll go through the brands, then go through the price, you will set your minimum, your maximum. But instead of doing everything like this on each website separately, they come to MLife and then they interact with the bot, and the bot is doing this at the back. Is that correct?
Yes. And the bot has an inventory of products. So it first asks you from the inventory, and then if it doesn't have, then it either looks for it or puts a recommendation for the product, and then a customer care would call you because we opened up a ticket for that. but generally products are available. About 10% of the products are not available, and we just have to keep them in inventory requested list.
It's like a butler type of service. You talk to
Completely.
someone, yeah, you talk to a robot that finds things for you. You don't have to waste your time search. Fantastic, I love it.
Whether it's over WhatsApp or SMS or, you know, different, whatever channel you prefer,
Awesome.
it'll just consume it.
I haven't heard of anything like this before. Is there any competitors, any other company doing something along that line?
I mean, there are a few startups trying to do something like this in different ways, but this is mainly, if you look at it, again, from an inside-out way, this is what Facebook is doing, but without telling us. They're taking our data and passing it on to consumers, and so is Google. But so far, we haven't had any privacy issues. I mean, you know, we've had issues, but there is no legislation around it. So what we're doing is just being them a little bit now with all this privacy in mind. We're saying we're almost going to do the same, but we're going to let people be social and give us the information what they want based on how they want it, because that's the future, right? We can't just sit here gathering metadata and say it's okay, we're going to push you 17 different baby diapers when you're not even a mother. It's not something that is going to last. It's not something that is sustainable. And this new generation we're talking about that's growing up in 10 or 15 years, like, you think they're really going to use Facebook for the way it is? So Facebook's changing too. If you look at the data behind Facebook, you look at Mark Zuckerberg's comments and what they're doing, they're really changing into a marketing, consumer-driven product. So they're all our competitors, but we're building our trustworthy network in Africa. It's a different type of consumer base. They need different types of interaction. So we're uniquely placed in this market in that way. We're learning from here, and we can use this information in other emerging markets. But then hopefully in the future, as soon as the consumers are fed up, and I think they are, the other markets open up for us too.
And you're doing your programming of the bot in a spectacular way, because with 1 million registered users and 250,000 interacting users, your team is only 15 people. I mean, you must have automated so many things, right?
Stefano, that's only in Kenya. He's also in, where else are you in?
Yeah, so we're in Nigeria and about 7 other countries across Africa, but we're pretty much,
wow.
So we get the data and work in different countries.
Can you list the countries?
Yeah, we're working in Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania. But then we turn off and on, you know, Zambia, Cameroon, Rwanda.
Fantastic. And the total amount of users aggregated?
I'd say the other countries have much less active users, but because also Nigeria is big compared to what Nigeria has, because we also do a lot of data collection just for smaller products. So I'd say in all the countries, about 1 million people that have interacted with our bots over the last 2 or 3 years.
And that's you know, I guess, you know, if you have more money to scale, and if you were, you know, at that time also to scale, and you put in more, you know, you get more businesses in those different countries, then it would likely grow to what you see in Kenya potentially.
Yeah. So again, we're just doing tests in multiple countries, and again, Bamba was active in a lot of those countries as well. So I have bases there, and I have the data, and so I understand how the market works. But we are currently trying to solve all the problems in Kenya and be able to scale such that when we scale in other markets, we can do better. So we're testing, and we're ready to scale as soon as we perfect Kenya, technically speaking.
That's a very healthy approach, right, for expansion plan. And how about North America?
Yeah, as I said, as soon as we are ready with a bunch of African markets and emerging markets, we can do that. But it's not just the scale is not only able to come by getting into multiple countries, because getting to North America, the competition is much stronger, and you know, you've got to go with enough muscle and enough money. So it has to be thought through in the right way. Also, I think it's about, again, if it's about the consumer, then where are the consumers having the biggest problem? Where are they not finding the best products they're paying too much for and worse quality? Is the rural markets of the emerging markets, right? Because the urban consumer doesn't really need help. They got everybody. They got Uber and 20 other Ubers offering them the same service. And unfortunately, that's killing the industry, because Uber is not able to make money. Neither is Glovo. Neither is, SafeBoda, because everyone's just competing for the small piece of the pie. Whereas 70% of the market is based on the rural, and they have real trouble. They have real problems getting the product. Shops don't have three different types of oil there. It's one, and it's take it or leave it. So the markets is emerging markets and rural consumers.
So COVID, we're in the middle of COVID. How did it affect your business positively, negatively?
Well, positively, I'd like to say that we've seen more interactions, we've seen more sales, and it's good that that's helping the consumers on the ground.
Is it because people are preferring to buy things online more than walking to a shop somewhere? Or?
Right, yeah, and there's multiple reasons for it. Of course, the lockdown and that helped. Stock delivery has helped. Like, not everybody has stock and whatnot, but the government has been pushing a lot of online sales and a lot of mobile money interactions. So that's been a huge, like nationwide driven initiative, which has actually become a marketing tool for us as well, to be like, look, use us and whatnot. So that's bigger, but consumers, like, Nairobi, a lot of people from Nairobi have gone out of the town and they're back into their homes and cities. So now all the people that kind of knew and were using this tech are back home and they're using it. So you see everybody, it's spread out across the country. So you see now a lot of different interactions with different parts of the country. You don't see them just segregated. So now you can see different people buying solar versus just 3 counties buying them because they have rain.
Interesting, because you would think that COVID would make people like kind of stay put and not move, but then you're seeing this assimilation of like customers and growing of customers. Because in Kenya we have a curfew. We're not quite on lockdown, but I think what you're saying is a lot of people want to be, then if they're going to be sort of isolated in one place, they want to be with their family maybe, and therefore they move to up country from Nairobi or so.
Yeah, the offices were closed and everything as well, right? So a lot of like people really went back, and now they're going to be working from home.
Right, because there's no point to work from the city if you're not going into the office and you live, like a few hours away. Okay, that makes sense.
So about 50% of the market has pretty much shifted from out of Nairobi, and that's where mostly the consumers were based, right? And
I imagine the
tech-savvy consumers as well.
I imagine the traffic in Nairobi now is heaven, like.
Yes. It's one of the beautiful things about, I wouldn't want to say it, but yes.
This pandemic, people dying by the traffic.
I mean, the city is beautiful, and the city needed to breathe as well. It's amazing. It's a beautiful city. You come out of town, you go to downtown, you can see what the city's about and why people come here and they stay here. I mean, you're always in the Monday to Saturday, this city used to go crazy. And now it's a little bit calmed down, which I think the city deserves. The roads are being fixed. The people have some more time. So.
I'm staying at the 36th floor, and I can see so far now. The sky is clear, so there are a lot of positive consequences to the lockdown, or at least to the movement constraint orders that have been issued. But it's also good to hear that for you, it wasn't an impact on the business. Actually, it's pretty much business as usual, sort of.
Yeah, we did have on the negative side, we did have some let downs. We did let go of a few fresh people that we brought on. We were scaling, and so we kind of had to let go of some of the junior staff, and then everybody had to pick up the slack. So we kind of went cut down our staff about 25%, which was a little bit of a pain.
Oh, wow.
But because also we were right in the middle of growing and pressing the accelerator in Jan 2020, and then Kenya, it also hit a little bit later, so it kind of got to us about a month later. So we we had lined up interviews and stuff from 2019, which kind of came in 2020, but then they fell through, and some people had to let go. And so, you know, there was of course impact to some lives, but yeah, I think the guys that stayed kind of have to pick up the slack, and also that's not ideal in such a scenario because, you know, you have more issues, family, you're worried about other things and stuff like that. So
yeah, in a way, is it almost forcing you to be more efficient, or did you have to put the brakes a little bit on this 2020 let's grow big plan?
So the growth, yeah.
It's coming off screen. Come back to the screen.
Yeah, I'd say it's definitely made us more efficient. We've always been an agile and a do more faster company. That's a Techstar logo, or you know, line. It's a do more faster. So we usually tend to be fast and do a few things. But no, I think again, you know, not talking in only positive of COVID, but these breaks were necessary in certain place where I have been able to, as a leader, and I've been able to make certain priorities that weren't very clear in the past, and that kind of where everything was, because it came up from a senior management, it becomes priority, versus right now everybody is understanding, and if you don't think that the time is enough to invest in, everybody's on board, right? So cutting down that, I wouldn't say it's a break, but I'd say it's accelerating some of the things, because now you're only focused on week-on-week growth. You're only focused on consumers. You're only focused on spending money where you know where you're going to be making money back. So I'd say for a lot of startups and a lot of businesses, this would be an opportunity to be profitable and show their investors and their internal teams that they can do what was necessary and cut down what they also thought was unnecessary in certain cases. Because if you're going to cut staff and lives, then cutting tasks is mandatory, right? You can't just bring everything onto the people that remain, and you can't have just cut staff because of the, you know, the pandemic. It has to be because, you know, there was some extra, and you're always hiring for the future, right? You're never just saying we need to get done here, but it's like, okay, we need a project done and we're going to implement it in a year. How can we bring on somebody on now and get it done? So yeah, I think priorities have been placed much more better, and I personally feel that the whole scare of COVID kind of was you know, that kind of like helped us go through it, because we were able to then only prioritize on things that were important, and that showed us that we can still grow and scale. So we've had to put some brakes, but I wouldn't say they're real brakes on the business. They're more brakes on the things we wanted to do that may have not been necessary, but the business, on the other hand, is doing okay.
And it might be temporary as well, even the fact that you had to let someone go. The economy is okay. I mean, it's not like the great financial crisis in 2008, 2009, where the system was sick, the economy, the finance world was sick, and there was a big underpinning problem. This time there wasn't. Actually, the economy was doing pretty well before COVID. So this temporary closure, imposed closure, not for economic factors or financial factors, but health factors that were unforeseen, definitely will have consequences for sure, but all they are going to be temporary. And soon enough, we will be back on track. At least that's what I guess. So probably also those that you had to let go, and the project that you had to leave aside. Great that you have a period of clarity now, but then you can start slowly reintegrating the vision that you had before. Or at least that's what I guess, right?
Yeah.
But I love how this, you know, you and some of the other entrepreneurs have also mentioned that COVID has just forced them to, you know, really be critical about their business and focus on profitability and just basically be laser focused on what they're doing and what they were set out to do. That it's almost like maybe a few years down the line might want to put on a COVID hat again and think like, if there was COVID right now, what would I be doing differently? Like almost a blessing in disguise. I mean, let's not talk about the dead bodies, but business.
I agree 50% of that, apart from the dead bodies. I'm with you on the fact that we don't have to just think in the next future, but even now we already have to think from what if COVID happened tomorrow again, because this is not a finished job.
Yeah.
This is coming, this is happening. So if you're an entrepreneur out there and you're a team that has been trying to make a business run, now is the time to make that business run, because if it didn't work now, then you're going to have trouble as soon as something else hits and something else hits. And this is something that hasn't been in the last 50 years, hasn't had to happen to generation of our generation yet. So this is a big thing. It would be the time to think like this always.
Yeah. This, it will pretty much survive anything or a lot in the future. So you're solid.
Because this was almost like a natural disaster that hit every human life, right? And in the same way, and it wasn't created by one of us, and it isn't something that can be taken away just by doing something, by having money or by having better optimism. It's there, and it's something that has to stay with us now and forever. So yeah. It's a bad thing, but it's a bad thing to always keep in consideration, because if it happens, we have to be ready. But also one last thing around it is that congratulations, and we aren't out of it, but a lot of my team and a lot of other people have shown so much strength through this. Like it's unbelievable what we can do as a team and what we can do as human beings when things like this hit us. So keeping that in mind, having these problems that are going to come up, we all already know we can surpass these things.
Yeah, shout out to the MLife team.
I'm sure they will be very excited to listen to this podcast. We have taken a lot of your time. It's taking 45 minutes now. Thank you for sharing. I don't have any other question. Diane, I'll leave it to you for the conclusion.
Sure. Yeah. So I don't have any other questions, Seth, but we'll like to leave the last minute or two for you to whether you want to shout at team members or you want to deliver a message to investors or potential members or current members.
I'd just like to say thank you to both of you and everybody that's going to listen to your podcast. Thank you, and share, like, comment, tag. You have to, otherwise it doesn't go anywhere. Thank you so much. But thank you for coming, Diane, and making your way here on 2 different bodas and all the hurdles. It was like an Olympic you ran here. Thank you for that.
My pleasure.
Still made it 12 minutes before our starting time, right? So that's the hustle, and that's what we do here, with or without COVID.
Well done.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for your time.